I won't take sides on 9/11 or any of the other debates. What does that mean?
Yeah, the Alex Jones thing is strange.
It's amazing how right he is about shit. How
he's right about
he's way more
so
accurate.
many
He's
things.
way more accurate than corporate news. The world's terrorists are the United States, and so they're like, no, you're
Bro, kill me.
COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically.
Remember, Jank thinks Destiny will get washed in today's debate.
16 points. That's how much Joe Biden is down from when he barely won last time. So just stopping the bleeding, nowhere near good enough. Staying in place, nowhere near good enough. Yes, stop the bleeding, get him his legs under him, and then he's gonna pick up 16 miraculous points. This is so beyond over. Anyone still saying that Biden should be the nominee is preposterous. Now I'm gonna have to go and do debates. I'm gonna do a debate with Destiny. You can check it out right here on the Young Turks channel at 5 o'clock Eastern on Saturday. And Joe Walsh, former Republican congressman, who I often agree with. But I don't know what the hell they're gonna say other than we're mental and we'd love to lose this election to Trump. That there's no defense of Biden if you want to beat Trump. But if you want to defer to authority and obey, then okay, you stick with Biden and go, we'll take the loss. In fact, we'll take a landslide because now he's losing non-swing states. John.
Well, I've been saying for some time, Jank, that it definitely seems to be the case, and it always has been back to Hillary Clinton. Like when they feel like they've got their person, they don't want to let go. They sink their teeth in and they won't release it. And it's easy for us as outsiders, I think, to see that and criticize it, but we don't know if we would do the same thing if a progressive was the candidate. And the reason we don't know that is it's literally never been the case. It would be cool someday if it was, actually. But anyway, you talked about stemming the bleeding.
Do you even have a hard disagreement with replacing Biden? A hard one? Not really. I'm not like ultra principally opposed to it. I just don't think it would be a good idea. And I don't see there being like a secondary super strong candidate that could replace him. Do you think Newsom would lose harder than current Biden? Is an anti-Trump sentiment strong enough for him to try at least? It's generally just not that simple to swap in a whole new presidential candidate. But the historical counterfactuals are impossible here. So literally no matter what happens, everybody's just gonna have their thing. If you swap in a new candidate and he ends up losing horribly, people are just going to say it's because they should have swapped him earlier, or the DNC wasn't behind him, or whatever. Like it just doesn't. Yeah. All the conversation around this is AIDS. If Bernie becomes Dem nominee, do you think he destroys Trump? Absolutely not. Bernie Sanders, he's way too progressive. I'd vote for him over Trump, though, 1,000,000,000%. It wouldn't be a question in my mind. I would vote for him absolutely, and I would campaign for him too. Whoever, if they swap out Biden, just to be one more time to be clear, because people think I have some like huge attachment to Biden. I don't. I just want to win the election. If the Dems put up almost anybody else, whether it's Newsom, Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders, Nina Turner, Michelle Obama, whoever the else, right? Even I think it's a bad idea. I will support whoever the candidate is. I will support it 1,000,000,000,000% unquestionably. Like I will support whatever candidate it like ends up getting put up. Well, I mean, unless it's a legitimately atrociously terrible, horrible candidate. Like if it was RFK versus Trump. Actually, no. Actually, I think I would have to dig into RFK a lot more. I would lean 99% to RFK though. I think I would. Right now it wouldn't even be a question in my mind actually, because there are things in my mind that are retarded. So being an anti-vaxxer and conspiratorial and blah, 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 like all those things are retarded. However, these are, in my mind, legitimate positions that you could inhabit in the total political paradigm that represents American politics. I think that there is space for people like that who I wholeheartedly disagree with in every single conceivable way. For Donald Trump, it's the election stuff and the coup stuff is too much. Bro, that's a two-way conversation. Somebody made that post in that subreddit And this has been like living in my mind rent free. I cannot believe I just didn't know at the time because I didn't know the electorate thing. The electorate plan, this was the plan. And he was so cognizant of it all. And it comes right before he makes this line. I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard. That right before this, he says, because you'll never take back our country with weakness, you have to show strength, you have to be strong. We have come to demand that Congress do the right thing and only count the electors who have been lawfully slated. He's talking about the whole scheme. I think that if you don't see this as as an insurrection, there's nothing. You won't see anything as it. You won't. There's just nothing you'll see. You can't, except for maybe a full on the president grabs an AK-47 and runs into the Capitol. But maybe you wouldn't even see that. Just to be clear, everyone knew about this plot as it was happening. It was reported on widely. I hard disagree. It might have been being reported on widely, or as in there were a few articles about it, but I don't think very many people were talking about this at all. The fact that every time I bring it up, that's great that you can link me one article. Thanks, bud. But the fact that basically every single time I bring this up, almost nobody has heard of it before, and even today, my guess is less than 20% of Americans are even aware of this. It's probably not even the fault of the reporting. It's more so the fact that people just don't know how our election system works.
Okay, Cenk, it makes no sense to continue to press for another Democratic nominee who will maintain the status quo while RFK Jr. has a real opportunity to win this thing and to get money out of politics. Jonathan, I don't know any host on the left that has been fair to RFK Jr. at all, period, a single one, let alone as fair as me.
I'm sorry, I just won't take these people seriously. We're going to spend 5 days in the most soy face possible talking about Biden's debate performance. Meanwhile, RFK, I don't think anybody's giving him a fair shot. The guy who literally had brainworms die of starvation in his skull. That guy.
So I'm telling you his downsides. I'm telling you his upsides. No one ever tells you his upsides. But I'm not going to hide his downsides. So the reality is he has both of those. And I don't know what to do with them. Right? So, but as I said last night, I got enough balls to say I'm considering him, which is in my world, that's heresy. If in my circles, they'll burn me at the stake for saying I'm considering RFK Jr. Okay? But I am, because his housing is better, his defense is better, his money in politics is way better. And I say, if you give me a random American...
Much of the RFK shit is because he's a Kennedy? None of it is just the anti-establishment shit. It's the usual anti-establishment, retarded, this dumbest shit in the world. As long as you're willing to blame every single bad thing on the establishment and say it's all a giant deep state conspiracy or whatever, you'll get support from people like this.
American,
DMT? Yeah, every single day.
Take them over Biden or Trump. Because I know I'm going to get wall-to-wall corruption with Biden and wall-to-wall lunacy and potential fascism with Trump. So I'll take a rando. At least they're not crooked, right? They're going to be honest. Maybe they're the right, left, or whatever, but at least they're not going to be crooks. So if I'll take a rando, will I take RFK Jr. over these two clowns? I don't know. I haven't made up my mind yet. But so if you're in the camp of hating me for that, now go ahead and hate me. If you're in the camp of saying, no, you should have already made up your mind and support him, go ahead and hate me for that. Or just let's all try to figure this thing out together. Okay. Maybe super last thing. Jordan, maybe I'm stating it wrong, because you know things online better than I do, to be honest. Is there anyone on the left that's saying, yeah, maybe we should look at RFK Jr.?
No, nobody that I really see. I think he's mostly seen as a kind of a crank conspiracy theorist. I mean, some of the stuff he says is just so ludicrous, right? He's blaming.
Oh, who's this guy? Wait, I thought they fired everybody that could put together a coherent thought at the Young Turks. Is he a guest or?
Big farm.
Or is he about to say, despite all of this, RFK is still a really good candidate? Wait, hold on, he still has time to nosedive. 1 second. Oh yeah, did you? Thank God. You know what? At least we have a principled leader like RFK, who's not going to take a side on partisan issues like 9/11. My take on 9/11. It's hard to tell what is a conspiracy theory and what isn't, but conspiracy theories flourish when the government routinely lies to the public. As president, I won't take sides on 9/11 or any of the other debates. What does that mean? Oh.
See, I think he's mostly seen as a kind of a crank conspiracy theorist. I mean, some of the stuff he says is just so ludicrous, right? He's blaming big pharma for school shootings. He blamed antidepressants for school shootings. That's not true. Like he has, you brought it up to him. He has, I think, a totally incoherent stance on how to address climate change. You want a free market response to climate change?
Who is this guy? Who is this guy? What? Oh man.
But also the corporations that are in that free market and operating in that free market have completely captured the regulatory agencies designed to address climate change. There are so many things, of course, like the January 6th sympathies to insurrectionists, hiring a J6er, just it goes. Not to mention, of course, being almost completely.
That's Jordan Ohl. Oh God, this guy is so horrible. Oh man. This is consistently one of the worst accounts on all of Twitter. And even he has a good take on RFK. Even he understands how deeply unserious RFK is as a candidate. What is happening?
It goes. Not to mention, of course, being almost completely anti-vax. I could never bring myself to support him.
I don't know that that's a ba-dum-bum, but okay. Maybe there's a different sound effect. Look, I think his vice president is even worse on vaccines, the vice presidential candidate, like to the point where it's super awkward. But I would actually, now you got me defending him a little bit.
Wait, what?
Is even worse on, different sound effect. Look, I think his vice president is even worse on vaccines, the vice presidential candidate, like to the point where it's super awkward.
Hit RFK's vice presidential candidate? I don't even know who the that is. Or can you be worse than RFK on vaccine? I guess you could try to make him illegal. Who?
But I would actually, now you got me defending him a little bit. Like he says free market, but that's the problem with RFK Jr., which is when he says free market on the climate change stuff, and then I press him on it, he says, well, free market, except I would make them pay their externalities, which is not free market. That's massive regulation saying.
I don't even know. An externality is when a particular transaction has an effect that's not accounted for within the market itself. Just because you're regulating like an externality or you're making an externality actually have a cost of the market doesn't mean it's not the free market anymore. Unless when you say free market, you literally mean unrestricted, unbridled capitalism with absolutely no regulations, checks, or government intervention whatsoever, which is like the.
Hey, if you're polluting or you're doing things that are adding to climate change, I'm going to increase your costs dramatically, which is actually the most extreme, but in a positive way, climate change proposal. But I don't know which one he actually means. That's one part of my issue. If I thought he really meant I'm going to enforce their externalities on them, that would probably tip me over and I would vote for him. Do you see why that would be way more left than anything that anybody else is proposing?
Isn't that literally the Obama cap and trade or carbon taxes? That's what that is, literally. How is it way more to the left than anything else?
That would be way more left than anything that anybody else is proposing?
If he was telling the truth, though. So I think the problem with him is he says what he thinks the person he's talking to wants to hear. That's one example. Abortion is another example. Him and Shanahan have completely changed their stances multiple times on abortion. They've ranged from no restrictions in one interview, and then when pressed on it, oh no, there would be restrictions. Then it was varying numbers of weeks in the pregnancy where they would enforce a restriction. And at one point, a reporter asked, hey, there's no real clear plan on your platform, on your website about your abortion stance. What is it? And he goes, you tell me, what should it be? Like, I just don't trust him at all. I think he's a politician who is saying anything he can to increase his support. He's not going to get elected. I mean, he can't. He doesn't have the math is not there. So it seems like a wasted vote.
I don't know about a couple of things you said, Jordan. I hear you.
Like what?
So number one, on abortion, you're totally right that he's all over the map and that he's doing it on purpose to try to appeal to both sides. But he did land on Roe v. Wade, right? So I read it because I had to get ready for the interview, et cetera. So Shanahan said things that weren't Roe v. Wade, and then he came in and clarified and said, okay, basically the Roe v. Wade standard, okay? So I'll take it, but I'm worried because he's all over the map and he's trying to please everyone. I get it, right? And in terms of whether he could win, he was at 20 points. But man, they got to just, if they give him town halls and he gets to make his case and he says some of the things like, hey, you know what, on housing, I'm not gonna let the private equity guys buy the houses. That is gonna be supernova popular, okay?
Literally nobody cares. Private equity buying homes is a reason for increased cost of housing. Is one of the dumbest talking point red flags ever. The amount of purchasing that like private equity or any of these people are even doing in the housing market is minimal at best. The idea that all the houses are so expensive because private equity is buying it is such a tired talking point.
And then can he get past 20 points? Yeah, especially when one of the candidates is barely alive. So I don't know. So, but yeah, I asked, hey, is anyone on the left even, considering him like I am? And apparently the answer is no. So there you go. I'm the fairest guy on the left. Okay. Thanks for watching the video, guys. We also love it if you hit the join button below because that makes you a member.
They're meant to be ongoing because they had a peace agreement. You know that they had a peace agreement almost immediately after the invasion. Russia invaded. They had a peace agreement, and Ukraine agreed to it. Zelensky agreed to it, and they flew Boris Johnson out there and said, you can't do this, or we're going to kill you."
Oh, conspiracy theory number one: Boris Johnson stopped peace between Ukraine and Russia. We've done this one before. What else? Oh, this is an RFK. I'm sorry. This guy looks like RFK's son to me. This is Jimmy Dipshit.
And so that's why he can't do it. Wow. And so that's why this war is ongoing, and they have to rip people off corners and put them in vans to go.
Also, where the f have we gotten to in society, bro? My brain is falling apart. I have to I have to unplug from these spaces. I can't do it. I just can't do it.
Alex Jones. And that's where I met Alex Jones.
That's hilarious. That video's hilarious.
It's hilarious in retrospect. It was, I guess, at the time too. But yeah, it's nice that we've made up. And
yeah, the Alex Jones thing is strange.
It's amazing how right he is about shit.
He's right about
he's way more
so
accurate.
many
He's
things.
way more accurate than corporate news. That's for sure.
But he got that one thing wrong.
The one thing
that
wrong.
One thing. Well, he's gotten other things wrong, but that one thing was a big one. And
Yeah,
that
and they set
one
him up.
thing changed. Maybe they did. I mean, it could have been that they did. I mean, I do think that is something that does happen. One of the things when something happens is people, and then I don't know if it's human beings or if it's groups or if it's foreign groups, they will concoct a fake narrative and try to get people to share it. Like they'll try to fool people into sharing a fake version of some real thing that happened. And I think they do that to undermine.
Is the idea here that Alex Jones was set up to not believe in Sandy Hook?
People that are conspiracy theorists that are occasionally correct. So if you can get a conspiracy theorist who's occasionally correct and get them a bunch of bad information, foolish information, and convince them on a website, polls, get a bunch of people involved that also believe it. I think that's where Flat Earth got started. And you get all these people like sharing things and believing things. And then if this person, they take the bait, and they'll go, this is what we're hearing. We're hearing this is a false flag. And then next thing you know, like, we got him. We got him. And if you're a guy like Alex Jones, who at the time was legitimately experiencing what you would call like a psychotic break. He was breaking. The guy was drinking like crazy. And
wow, how convenient that on the one thing that he happened to get sued over, it was because he was having a psychotic break. But everything else, he's totally right on.
When you're uncovering real conspiracies all day long, every day, which is what he does.
Nothing seems crazy.
Everything seems
Plausible.
off the wall. The whole fucking world seems topsy-turvy. Nothing makes sense. You fucked up. But he's right so often. If you look at what CNN is fucked up on.
What is he talking about when he says that he's often correct? What was he correct on? I don't even know. He says so many different things. I'm sure that he's correct on some of them. Like, arguably, one of the biggest memes is that the gay frogs thing technically was something that is correct, but nobody knows the origination. Even I don't know where that comes from. Supposedly, there's some chemical that can leak into water that will change the chromosomes or the sexuality, or it might just be the gender of some fucking, like that was technically a correct thing. But I'm pretty sure that was part of a wider conspiracy he was making. But like, yeah, I mean, if you assert enough like crazy shit, you're gonna be right on a few things.
How come they're not in trouble for the weapons of mass destruction shit? How come they're not in trouble for Russiagate? How come they're not in trouble for so many
Which up do you think is bigger, the one that Hillary and Barack Obama did in Libya,
Yeah.
or Alex Jones?
Yeah.
Which one do you think go fight in this fucking war? The average age of the Ukraine military is over 40 years old.
Have you seen the videos of guys getting
Yes,
kidnapped?
I can't even watch it.
Guys with their families. They just grab a guy.
They just grab him.
Grab him, and people are screaming. They're throwing him in a van. You're going to go fight in a war.
I think you lost the war when we already did. So they did.
Yeah.
So,
And then, of course, nobody knows how this war started. You've had Dave Smith on; he explained it.
Yeah.
You know, nobody.
Oh, thank God we brought in the expert, the comedian guy, Dave Smith. Thank God we have expert comedians that we can bring on to give us the origination of the Ukraine-Russian war. Thank God. I hope it started with the 2014 U.S.-backed coup.
to the state knows about the Maidan coup that the United States got in bed with right-wing Nazis in Ukraine to overthrow a democratically elected government.
Oh, he literally did. Oh, okay. I was being a little bit facetious, but okay. My bad.
And then they started bombing the people in the east of Ukraine, called the Donbass, and they wouldn't stop. They had two peace agreements called the Minsk Accords. Guess who?
Oh, and they were both going so well. Oh, these are the same bullshit talking points that Constantine has. They were both going so well, and then they were blown up by, what, Zelensky or the U.S.?
Violated that the Ukraine. It wasn't that. And so, I've heard people say that. And then, of course, it was the expansion of NATO, right? The threat of putting NATO on the border of Russia, which...
It already is. Does anybody know that? Do you think anybody knows that? Like what countries are in NATO or what countries bordering Russia are? Do you think any of them know that? Or is it just like a...
Everybody from Kissinger to Chomsky and everybody in between.
Chomsky. Oh, well, if Chomsky, renowned supporter of U.S. foreign policy, was giving recommendations on this...
That's a mistake. Don't do that. Well, that's, of course, what they're doing. And so what's the point of NATO anymore? And then this whole idea, they're doing the domino theory again. Oh, well, if we allow him to do this to Ukraine, he's going to go to Poland next. And it's the same fucking shit they said all the time. It's the domino theory. And again,
the world's terrorists are the United States.
Look what we did to Iraq. Look what we did to Libya. Libya, the most successful country in all of Africa. The guy created the eighth wonder of the world with the way how he delivered water and all the time. It's the domino theory. And again, the world's terrorists are the United States. Look what we did to Iraq. Look what we did to Libya. Libya, the most successful country in all of Africa. The guy
I'm so sorry. I don't know Libyan history. By what metric was Libya the most successful country in all of Africa? Can somebody steelman this for me? By what metric?
I created the eighth wonder of the world with the way how he delivered water and turned deserts into farmland. And everybody had a house and everybody had education and healthcare. And we turned it into a failed state run by terrorists with open slave markets. Who did that? Barack Obama and Hillary.
Literacy? When did Gaddafi come into power? My understanding is everybody hated... Like, Gaddafi was not a good guy. Maybe before Gaddafi, maybe it was good. Did the U.S. support Gaddafi come into power? I actually don't. I don't know Libyan history. I don't even know how to spell this guy's name. From 1969, Jesus, onwards. Human Development Index, Libya. People are saying it was a high rate of literacy. Can I see it historically? Is 1.0 your theoretical max or whatever? I guess Libya was improved. This goes from 0.72 to 0.78. What's the HDI for, say, Egypt? It was 0.73. All right, maybe Libya was a decent country.
Hillary Clinton did that, and they'll never have to pay a price for that. Barack Obama, the most they'll do is go, "Yep, that was a mistake."
But why did they get rid of Gaddafi?
Because he was going to start a currency of Africa just for that was going to compete with the U.S. dollar and the euro, and they can't have that because the way the United States controls the world is because the United States dollar is the reserve currency of the world. So that's why they can put sanctions on all these countries. And so what they're doing, which they shouldn't do, they're weaponizing the U.S. dollar. And so like when countries want to trade with each other, they have to go take their currency, change it into U.S. dollars so they can trade. And it was a lot of it was based on the petrodollar, which, by the way, Saudi Arabia just quit. They didn't renew it. I don't know if you heard about that.
Yeah, I did hear about that.
So, and all of a sudden, CBS News is starting to do news stories about how Saudi Arabia was involved in 9/11. All of a sudden, 24 years later, all of a sudden, oh, you know what? Turns out there was something happened. And they're like, you mean 2 weeks after they decided to not renew the fucking petrodollar? Now CBS News is allowed to talk about that and investigate it, which when I talked about it, got demonetized. But anyway, so that's why, because Gaddafi was doing that. He was going to set up a currency for all of Africa, and it was going to be based on have a gold standard. And so they're like, "No,
bro, kill me.
You're not fucking doing that." And they made up a bullshit thing like, "We got to save the people." Whatever. You guys, they don't give a fuck about the people in America. They got veterans and everybody else living under every goddamn bridge in this country. You think if they gave a shit about those people, don't you think they'd start helping the people right outside the front door?
Right.
Instead of, no, we gotta go help people in Libya, and we gotta help people.
How much weight have you lost? I weigh like 146 right now.
It's about helping people in Ukraine, and it's about helping people in Taiwan, and it's about no. This is all about an upward transfer of money. This is about balkanizing countries and turning it over to BlackRock and Vanguard. That's what this is about.
Yeah.
Wow. What is a petrodollar? Is there a requirement to trade oil in dollars? I think my understanding is that when people are, I don't remember if there's a requirement. I don't think there's a requirement for this. Maybe they just do. If you talk to a Western cuck, okay, like myself, if there is some commodity that you want to trade, let's say, for instance, a barrel of oil, okay? If there is a commodity that you want to trade, you might have a currency, okay? I shouldn't use a dollar symbol. We'll just use C for currency, and they might have a currency. And a few things are happening, I think, when you're buying and selling oil, okay? So at any point in time, your currency could go down and your currency could go up, okay? You have no idea. And your buyer or seller or the person who's buying from you, their currency could, or the person who's, yes, buying from you, their currency could go up and their currency could go down. So what happens is if you want to make a sale, let's say that you have a whole bunch of this commodity, okay? We'll call it oil. You got a whole bunch of this commodity and you want to sell it to some country. You get into a weird world where it's like, okay, well, I could sell it to them, but I don't really want to hold a bunch of their currency. It's just, I don't know if it's that stable. So if I sell a whole bunch of oil to this country and then they pay me back in their currency and I don't understand the stability of it, what I probably want to do is I probably want to like swap this currency out to something that's more stable. And generally speaking, people view the United States dollar as the world reserve currency, meaning that it's the most stable currency. And people think that barring apocalyptic hell, the United States is still going to be here to honor their dollars and to honor their treasury bonds. So I think what happens is when people are buying and selling oil, all of it ends up being demarcated in USD. So now if you're buying or selling, everybody basically trades into dollars, I believe, or trades via like US bonds or something first. So every sale that you make is ultimately notated. And I think the currency you end up, receiving is in the form of United States dollars, I think. That's like my loose understanding of it. But this is called the petrodollar. I don't believe that the petrodollar has anything to do with the military forces you to buy and sell using USD, otherwise we'll your women and murder your children. It's more just like when people are trading assets, people generally want a common denominator for trade that represents some kind of stable currency. That's why we don't do barter systems anymore. We trade in currencies within countries, right? In the US, I'm not going to trade you, 10 iPads. I was about to say iPod. I'm not going to trade you 10 iPads for 3 cell phones and see what happens to the price of the future. No, I'm going to use dollars. I'm going to use a currency. And I think this is essentially the petrodollar. But yeah, some people say anytime somebody says the petrodollar, you're probably about to hear the dumbest conspiracy shit that you've ever heard in your entire life. Petrodollar is like a lightning rod for retarded conspiracy theories. There's a very strong network effect. Lots of countries internally use the US dollars as well because of how bad the foreign exchange rate for their own currency is. Yeah, that could be true too. I might be totally making this up. I might be completely making this up, but I thought I heard at one point in time that like even people in Venezuela for a while were like trying to get paid in USD if they worked for foreign companies or even within the country. They'd want to get paid in USD because they know that country wouldn't hyperinflate. I don't know if that's true or not. I might be completely making that up, but I feel like I read that at one point in time. What does Saudi have to do with it? I couldn't tell you honestly the structure of any of this stuff. There are a group of countries called OPEC, which is the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries. I don't think Saudi Arabia is the head of this. I think they're supposed to all be equal partners, right? But I think Saudi Arabia, has the highest proven reserves. And so they're seen as like a big dick in this. They're seen as like a big dick in the OPEC thing. So whenever people talk about OPEC, they're usually talking about, I think they'll say like Saudi Arabia like leads. It's the fact that Saudi regulates its oil output at the US's behest. I've heard this and I've read in news articles, so I haven't done like big studying yet, but I've read in news articles and stuff that like Saudi Arabia can theoretically control the output, but every time they do, they just get undercut by other OPEC countries, so they really don't have the ability to do that. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm only saying that because I've seen that in articles. Is OPEC a cartel? I think arguably, I think definitionally OPEC is a cartel, right? But I think it, people are saying Venezuela has the most proven reserves. I think it kind of has to be. Otherwise, bad things would happen. They are called the oil cartel. Okay, there you go. The problem with the cartel is that people get together and they will fuck you over on prices on things because all of them control the price going up and down. But the reality is that if the price of oil is allowed to go too low, it would probably mean really bad things for all of these countries. And if the price of oil goes too high, it would mean really bad things for the rest of the world. So I think arguably having a group of countries that are kind of controlling it for what the price should be is probably a little bit better than either the other two things. Destiny, you are bad at economics. Well, Inner Squill, you're welcome to join the disagreement chat and talk with me about it if you feel like I've said something you disagree with. Speaking of, Id Seti, what do you want?
Hello?
Hi.
Oh, I just had a hold on, let me mute this.
Yeah, you're in the disagreements channel, so good job.
Yeah,
You come to the right place. Josiah's brother.
My disagreement was about the Alex Jones not being right on things.
Okay.
So, I guess you kind of just went over it, but you did say like Alex Jones is not right on anything, and then there's no way that he can kind of like be false flagged, and I just.
Like, I don't think I said. Well, hold on. I don't think I said either.
Okay,
Alex Jones can't be right. I'm sure he's right on some things. He must be, just because of the huge amount of claims that he makes. I'm sure he's right on some things. And then in terms of like,
you did kind of say that.
Okay, and then in terms of like he can't be false flagged. I mean, he could be false flagged. I don't think there was any evidence he was false flagged on the Sandy Hook thing.
No, I don't think so either. But that is like what these kind of right away people are gonna say. They're gonna like try and prove like the theory of mind stuff you talk about all the time. Like they're gonna try and like fool themselves into believing that this is something that could have happened. and then kind of just like waving it off of like, oh, there's no way he could ever be false flagged, instead of kind of debunking it. I guess like if you're not in like a super debate mode, right? Like you're not gonna like care too much about it.
Okay.
Yeah, that was just pretty much it. Like he could have been false flagged, so you have to take your time to debunk that in a
keep that in mind.
more charitable way, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
What is this?
You have gained notoriety for your skepticism about vaccines. And over the summer in an interview, you said, quote, "There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective." Do you still believe that?
I never said that.
So stop me. We have the clip.
I don't want to be mean towards a guy. Actually, well, no, I don't want to be mean towards a guy. But for all the people saying that, like, Biden can't do it because of his debate performance, no offense, but, like, that if you believe that RFK Jr. couldn't be president just on voice alone, right? Like, that's immediately disqualifying. It would just never be the case. Like,
so stop me. We have the clip. Please play the clip.
You've talked about that the media slanders you by calling you an anti-vaxxer. And you've said that you're not anti-vaccine, you're pro-safe vaccine. Difficult question. Can you name any vaccines that you think are good?
I think some of the live virus vaccines are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective. What I'm saying is that none of the 72 vaccines has ever been tested in a safety study.
Okay.
that was a big cut. What was the rest of his quote there? RFK Jr. There are no vaccines that are safe and effective. This was on Lex.
Difficult question. Can you name? What about the polio?
What are my views on vaccines?
Words. What about the polio?
What is safe and effective?
Those are big words. What about the polio?
What are my views on vaccines?
Well, you've said previously that no.
It's not our business. Are probably averting more problems than they're causing. There's no vaccine that is, safe and effective.
Those are big words. What about the polio? Can we talk about the?
Well, here's the problem.
Yes.
Here's the problem. The polio vaccine contained a virus called simian virus 40, SV40. It's one of the most carcinogenic materials that is known to man. In fact, it's used now by scientists around the world to induce tumors in rats and guinea pigs in labs. But it was in that vaccine.
Okay, switching into medical mode for a second. Okay, when something being carcinogenic or something being toxic or something being whatever, generally, if we're going to be saying something is, in this context, it would be very appropriate to qualify that particular thing. Something could be carcinogenic or even highly carcinogenic, but given like a one-time exposure to it, the likelihood of developing any kind of cancerous thing from it is like almost approaching zero, right? Things can be toxic at different dosages, over different exposure timers or whatever. Like, just to say that something is carcinogenic or just to say that something is toxic or just to say something is whatever is a little bit meaningless, especially when we're comparing like the presence of a thing in a vaccine versus, will they induce tumors in labs or something,
Rats and guinea pigs in labs. But it was in that vaccine. 98 million people who got that vaccine in my generation got it. And now you've had this explosion.
Immunization safety review, SV40 contamination of polio vaccine cancer immunization. Oh, so this wasn't even like, or was every single vaccine contaminated, or was it just some of them? How many polio vaccines were contaminated with SV40? The CDC did not say the polio vaccine gave millions of Americans a cancer virus. Okay, the agency said that 10 to 30% of the 98 million shots administered appeared to be contaminated with SV40. But the studies have found no causal relation between SV40 and cancer in humans. Damn, how do you have... What happened? When some polio vaccines were contaminated with SV40, which came from monkey kidney cells used to make the shots at the time. Huh. Okay, and then apparently the SV40, the vaccines for polio, the ones that would have had SV40 haven't been linked to any cancer increases as well, but okay. That's what he's talking about.
I've saw that vaccine and my generation got it, and now you've had this explosion of soft tissue cancers in our generation that kill many, 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 many more people than polio ever did. So if you say to me that the polio vaccine was effective against polio, I'm going to say yes. And if you say to me, did it kill more people, did it cause more deaths than avert, I would say I don't know because we don't have the data on that. So,
but let's talk. Well, we kind of have to narrow in on: is it effective against the thing it's supposed to fight?
Oh well, a lot of them are. Let me give you an example. The most popular vaccine in the world is the DTP vaccine, diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. It was introduced in this country around 1980. That vaccine caused so many injuries that Wyeth, which was the manufacturer, said to the Reagan administration, "We are now paying $20 in downstream liabilities for every dollar that we're making in profits, and we are getting out of the business unless you give us permanent immunity from liability." So the vaccine companies then were given, and by the way, Reagan said at that time, "Why don't you just make the vaccine safe?" And
what vaccine is he talking about? It sounded like he was talking about Tdap. This one?
Wyeth said because vaccines are inherently unsafe. They said unavoidably unsafe. You cannot make them safe. And so when Reagan wrote the bill and passed it, the bill says in its preambles, because vaccines are unavoidably unsafe. And the Brucewitz case, which was a Supreme Court case that upheld that bill, uses that same language. Vaccines cannot be made safe. They're unavoidably unsafe. So this is what the law says. Now, I just want to finish this story because this illustrates very well your question. The DTP vaccine was discontinued in this country, and it was discontinued in Europe because so many kids were being injured by it. However, the WHO and Bill Gates gives it to 161 million African children every year. And
one thing that I would like to see more is I think people need to force whys. Why does Bill Gates give it to, because he wants to murder black children? He wants to murder African kids? Like, why? Talk me through that. I want to hear the full connection, yeah.
Bill Gates went to the Danish government and asked them to support this program, saying, we've saved 30 million kids from dying from diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. The Danish government said, can you show us the data? And he couldn't. So the Danish government paid for a big study with Novo Nordisk, which is a Scandinavian vaccine company, in West Africa. And they went to West Africa and they looked at the DTP vaccine for 30 years of data. And they retained the best vaccine scientists in the world, these kind of deities of African vaccine program, Peter A.A.B., Sigrid Morgensen, and a bunch of others. And they looked at 30 years of data for the DTP vaccine, and they came back and they were shocked by what they found. They found that the vaccine was preventing kids from getting diphtheria, tetanus, and pertussis. But the girls who got that vaccine were 10 times more likely to die over the next 6 months than children who didn't. Why is that? And they weren't dying from anything anybody ever associated with the vaccine. They were dying of anemia, bilharzia, malaria, sepsis, and mainly pulmonary and respiratory disease, pneumonia. And it turns out this with
Okay, I can't. The problem is for every single claim this guy makes, I have to do more new novel research into vaccines to find out where the retarded fucking claims are coming from. And I don't feel like fact checking everything you say right now because we're never going to make it through that Chevron case.
So let me ask you if you think it's wise for people to take these vaccines, because
This guy's got more vaccine conspiracies than I heard from fucking Robert Malone. Jesus.
you had this to say on a different podcast about whether people with young babies should be getting them shots. Watch.
For many, many years, I think parents were so gaslighted and they were scapegoated and they were vilified and marginalized, so that even parents of kids who were very, very badly injured knew what happened to their kid, but they were just reluctant to talk about it. And I think now those days
Do you think RFK knows how vaccines work? I have no idea.
are over. Our job is to resist and to talk about it to everybody. If you're walking down the street, and I do this now myself, which is, I don't want to do, I'm not a busybody. I see somebody on a hiking trail carrying a little baby, and I say to them, better not get them vaccinated. And he heard that from me. If he hears it from 10 other people, maybe he won't do it. Maybe he will save that child.
Maybe he will save that child. You think preventing vaccines for a child will save that child? Do you still say this to parents today?
What I say again is I had 3 vaccines, Casey, when I was a kid, and I was fully compliant. My kids got 72. The current recommendations are, I think, around 77. And
I have a vaccine record for my child, and there are not 77
there are
shots on there.
77 doses. There are 72 doses of 16 vaccines. Oh, that's just a fact.
You have
How many vaccines are recommended to children? I do like that we went from 77 vaccines to 16 vaccines at 72 doses by the end. So at least we... So up through 16, you'll have, this is just a vaccine, but these could be multiple. It could be a series maybe, right? So 1 and 5 is 6, 11, 15, 17, 18, 22, 23, 24, 28, 27. No, I'm sorry. 28, 31, 32. So 32 up to the age of 16. Although some of these are repeats as well, like Hep B, PCV 13, PCV 13, PCV 13. Oh no, they still give an inactivated polio vaccine. Not good. Oh, it's all down here. Where does he get the 72 vaccines from? Are they a combined shot? Like for like the DTaP? I thought it was Tdap. Is it DTaP? This should be one shot. Measles, mumps, rubella counts as 3. Is an MMR one shot or is... Why is it important for children to get a Hep B vaccine? My guess is so that they don't get hepatitis B. Wouldn't that be why you get it? He's counting each disease within a shot as a dose. Oh, okay. Search up USPTG vaccination schedule. Oh, this one right here. Well, this tells you the different dosages or how many times you get a particular shot. If you're getting, would you call this a series if they're months apart? Or what does it mean if you say like, so like the Pfizer shot was a series. You got one, and then I think you got another one a week later or 2 weeks later. Was it a month later? I don't remember. Hey, Destiny, I believe the actions of Warren Harding during the Teapot Dome scandal would suggest he didn't believe he has presumptive immunity. Sadly, he passed away before legal action. Okay. Shit, RFK on bridges? Yeah. One sec. When I saw all that stuff vax not working, I refused to get it. Have you ever seen people get sick and die from vaccine-presentable diseases? It's insane how many people I knew who got really sick from immediately after having gotten the jab. Well, that's not really surprising at all, because a lot of what is a sickness is your immune system responding to pathogens in the body. If you got the vaccine, especially after you've gotten vaccinated once before, the likelihood of you developing bad symptoms for a day is pretty high. That's typically what's supposed to happen. That's how vaccines work. It's kind of the point. Not a typical vaccine, though? Yes. There are lots of vaccines that will make you feel kind of sick after you get them. I think after you get the flu shot, I think they say you can feel under the weather for a day. No, I mean like she got MS. I don't think she got multiple sclerosis from a vaccine, my friend. Or there might be some that have that. I don't know. Or maybe there is some, but this is something I want to hear your debate on. No, you don't. I've run through more vaccine conspiracies than probably any other debater on the internet, I think. I don't know anybody that's ran through as many as me. All of them are bullshit. Every single one was bullshit. If you want to throw a debater at me, find a YouTuber with over 500,000 subs and I'll fucking argue with them, okay? What would it take for you to vote Trump? I don't know if I ever... Well, I mean, if Trump changed his positions on things. But I think I'd be more likely to just leave the country. Do you not think the Dems could do much better if they found a better candidate? This is the candidate the Democrats voted for. This is who we've got. This is who the primary process delivered in 2020. And now this is kind of like, everybody knew this was a risk in 2020. I think Biden even said in 2020 he was only going to be a one-term president for a little bit. And then I think he dropped that. But have you done any research on the Russian troll farms and their impact around election time? Russian interference in our media should be like a conspiracy theory that groups around the country should be primed to want to take an interest in, and they absolutely don't. The idea that I think Russians like fucking with our election shit is like so patently obvious, and the idea that nobody wants to talk about it because they just want to screech Russian gate and then shit and piss and cum all over themselves while doing it, like I just can't. I have to like maximize. I've got to start maximizing my emotional health because I can't handle these people. Jesus Christ. People talk about how Israel is like secretly influencing the entire world. Meanwhile, like Russia today, like outwardly pays for news people and host people and like has like media and is like saying shit in our country and is like, oh, it's even more obvious in Europe. It pisses me off as a European. Yeah. I might actually support like nuking Israel and having the Palestinians just take over everything just so that we can stop talking about Jewish conspiracies. That would actually be the strongest argument. If you want to convince me why we should stop supporting Israel, it would be so that the Arab states can rise up and wipe them off the map, and then we can focus on like Russia, China, Iran, Qatar, like the people that actually do propaganda, and not all of like the fabricated propaganda that people are like convinced comes from fucking Israel. Like Israel somehow controls world politics and they can't even get a grasp on their own fucking domestic politics. Like RFK thought the COVID vaccine was protecting Jews and the Chinese, and there's footage of it. He now says it never happened. Wait, what? RFK Jr. vaccines. Wait, I watched this. This is the one where he says he thinks that maybe they were engineered because apparently we can engineer viruses, and he said maybe they were engineered to avoid Chinese and Jewish people. Did he say that? I think we watched this. We might have watched this exact video.
2.5 years. Okay, I'm not going to interrupt again. This will be my only interruption. Then we'll watch the whole thing. Bobby Kennedy does this all the time. You don't necessarily know a lot about bioweapons because you've been
Cope harder, they will say that the destruction of Israel was a Jewish conspiracy. Yeah, probably. Unironically, they would. They say now Jews can be dispersed around the world again. They can use both the Holocaust and now their second Holocaust, the destruction of Israel, as a new reason for why we have to feel so fucking bad for them. And now instead of us being able to tell the Jews that they can all go run off to one country, now they have an excuse to be parasitic leeches that are controlling the countries all over the world that they now find themselves in. And they've got a new Holocaust that they can appeal to solicit endless sympathy from the public for it, which makes it impossible to criticize them even more. We're going to be considered anti-Semitic even more than we were before. And now if we criticize Jews, that we can't even say that like, well, no, we're just being critical of like Zionist policy or whatever. Now, since there's no more country left, now every single criticism of a Jew has to be anti-Semitic. So they have like the best argumentative strategy going forward. It's like, yeah.
researching it for a couple years for a book. You also could be researching nonsense. So it doesn't really mean anything. Let's listen to what he said.
And you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically.
Remember, bro, I'm actually losing it. This is my last year of streaming. I'm actually losing it. Remember that these people believe that Boeing, okay? These people believe that Boeing, okay, $113 billion company, Boeing is assassinating people who are whistleblowers. However, you can walk around saying shit like this without even having private security. Not a fear in the world. Not a single scare in your mind. Okay? Boeing is assassinating whistleblowers but you can talk openly about how the government is secretly bioengineering viruses to selectively kill people around the planet.
COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are...
You know what people do when they actually think there's like people getting assassinated? What is this guy, when he's talking, what do you see this guy broadcasting from? Do you see him in the Gaza Strip? Do you see him in Tel Aviv or Ramallah? No. Motherfucker over in Qatar, okay? There's a reason why. Because the Mossad would kill him if they had the ability to. If they knew where this motherfucker was, they would kill him over there, okay? They would, okay? There's a reason why you know why people go into exile? It's because they know that if they stay at a particular place, they're going to get... You know why Yanukovych fled Ukraine, okay? When the Beirut or whatever the shooting... Because he knew that if he stayed there, he was going to die. You know why Saddam Hussein was hiding in a hole? Do you know why Bin Laden was at first in Afghanistan and then in Pakistan? The reason why these people hide is because they know they're going to be assassinated. Okay, the fact that people say shit like this and they're just like, oh, they go to dinners and they're in public and blah blah blah. Like, really? Wait, this super spooky government that's willing to murder so many of its own citizens and has all these conspiracies and is killing all these people with impunity and has no problem covering up any infinite amount of things. Why would you walk around publicly saying this shit unless you know it's all bullshit? Unless you know it's bullshit. So nobody gets assassinated unless they hide before? Brother, what are you saying? Can you not... What? What is Lil Bro's point? Is this that hard to understand? If you are genuinely saying that a government is capable of doing such things, usually your actions follow your rhetoric, okay? Usually you're going to be probably hiding from the government or doing the best you can to minimize the chance of you getting murdered by the government because you think they can legitimately do that. The United States what did he say in some of these other things? Is one of the biggest war profiteers, is one of the worst countries in the world for this. Go to North Korea and criticize Kim. Go to Russia and in the right spots and criticize Putin. Or go to any dictatorship or any authoritarian regime and go and criticize their leaders openly, like in the public. Like,
because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors.
By the way, the guy sitting next to him seems very skeptical about what's being said.
The ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
Now you heard that, right? COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted.
Then the woman to his left is like, I'm going to have to take a drink after hearing that.
Targeted that or not, but there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA.
By the way, continuing to call it the Ukraine at this point in time, but we're not even going to get into that. So we're going to be...
I don't know if that's intentional or not. I'm leaning towards now. This is like the year of malice. Ascribing malice, because I think in the past 5 years I've been way too lenient on it. I don't remember the reason why, but when you refer to it as the Ukraine, it's supposed to be like an insult. It's like the N-word for a country, but not really. Can somebody explain why this is? The Ukraine Oblast. It has something to do with like asserting Russia is like the rightful owner or something. I just don't remember the language reason why. In the English-speaking world in the 20th century, Ukraine, whether independent or not, was referred to as the Ukraine. This is because the word Ukraine, Ukraina, or Ukraina means borderland. So the definite article would be natural in the English language. This is similar to Nederlanden, which means lowlands and is rendered in English as the Netherlands. However, since Ukraine's declaration of independence in 91, this usage has become politicized and is now rare, and style guides advise against its use. Gotcha. Said that the Ukraine implies disregard for Ukrainian sovereignty. The official Ukrainian position is that the Ukraine is both grammatically and politically incorrect. Fix your Discord and policies, because when people are bullied in your Discord, they're not allowed to retaliate. Bullies have immunity, and you're allowing it. I'm sorry, Leora Avigil. Destiny, it's not a thing. People just pearl clutch over it, translating to border region from Russian. I'm pretty sure it is a thing, because I think I heard Ukrainians complaining about it more than anybody else. I think I did. Like a couple years ago on Twitter, I thought that's where I heard it coming from. That and changing Kiev to Kyiv instead. There needs to be like a satire. Like if it was like I want to see Nasrallah like walking around Tel Aviv being like, the Mossad is killing everybody. They're going to try. Like, bro, what are you doing? God, it's so stupid. It's okay. You said that Biden could kill Trump and nothing would happen to him. Have you considered that civil war is an actual option that USA would choose? So no president would do something like that. So what you said makes no sense. What I said was you could do it without criminal liability. Obviously, there could theoretically be a million other things that would happen. Why are you donating to me in euros? Stop caring about our elections. You. How do I set my stream to America only?